Allah rızası için
What you do should be for the sake of Allah Almighty.
yapılınca her şey hem insan için daha zor. Çünkü insanoğlu nankördür.
People are ungrateful.
Verirsen senden olur, vermezsen hemen sana kızar.
They're only in good terms with you if you give to them, and if you don't do what they want you to do, they are against you.
Sen arkandan konuşur.
If you don't do what they want you to, then they speak ill of you, they backbite on you,
Her türlü fitne, fesat yapabilir.
and they may cause all kinds of fitna, corruption, and unrest behind your back if you are not with them.
Öyle yapan insanlardan muhafaza olmak için o şeyi Allah rızası için
And in order to protect oneself from people's evil, and in order to not live under the expectation of expecting something in return of a favor you performed, you must do all the goods you do for the sake of Allah Almighty, without expecting anything in return from people.
her yaptığın işi, her yaptığın hayrı Allah rızası için yapacaksın.
Every goodness you perform, every good deed you perform, you should perform it for the sake of your Lord Allah Almighty, without expecting anything in return from anyone.
Bunun şey için değil, menfaati için, kendi menfaatinde işte sana teşekkür edecekler, seni iyi bilecekler diye yaparsan tabii insanoğlu bir gün sana şey yapar, ondan sonra unutur, iyiliği unutar. Yani zaten
So if you don't do things for the sake of trying to do something for the profit of someone or for your own profit, because people will forget about the goodness you do, and the only way to do things is to do goodness for the sake of Allah Almighty.
insanoğlu o fitret üzerine yaratılmış.
Because people are forgetful, and it is within humans' nature that they forget about the goodness that somebody may have done for them.
Peygamberimiz sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem buyuruyor, iyilik ettiğin insana şerrinden korun diyor.
And our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, stressed the importance of when you do something good, to do it for the sake of Allah Almighty, by stating that if you do something good for someone, then protect yourself from the evil of the person for whom you did something good.
Onun için Allah rızası için yapılınca istediği kadar kötülük yapsın, istediği kadar şey yapsın.
If you do something for the sake of Allah Almighty, then you do not depend on the reaction of that person. That person may in fact return your goodness with badness, but it doesn't matter, because you did not do something in expectation. The only aim was to do it for the sake of your Lord Allah Almighty.
Sen başın, kafan rahat, için rahat.
And if you do things only for the sake of Allah Almighty, without expecting anything in return, then you will have obtained peace of mind. You will feel comfortable and at peace and at ease inside of you.
Memnunsun. Ya kimsenin teşekkürünü bekleyecek değilsin.
And then you will be happy. Don't wait for others to say thank you to you. Do things for the sake of Allah Almighty. And if you do things for the sake of Allah Almighty without expecting anything in return, not even a thank you, then you will feel happiness.
Teşekkür Allah Azze ve Celle'dir.
Thanks belong to Allah Almighty.
Tabi insanlara teşekkür etmeyen Allah'a şükretmemiş olur.
However, those who do not say thank you to people do not show their gratitude towards Allah Almighty.
O insanlar, Allah onları sana musahhar etmiş, sana yardımcı olsun diye işlerine vermiş.
If Allah Almighty send people to you for your support, to support you and to help you and to do things for you, then you should express your appreciation by thanking them in order to express your gratitude towards Allah Almighty.
Onlara teşekkür edersen Allah'a teşekkür etmiş olur.
And if you give thanks to them, you will be thus giving thanks to Allah Almighty.
Yok yapmasan o faziletten, sevaptan mahrum kalmış olursun.
But if you don't thank those people who support you, who work for you, who then you will have deprived yourself of the benefit of showing appreciation to Allah Almighty, and by not saying thank you to people, you will not have given thanks to Allah Almighty, and you will not have obtained the blessings of being grateful to Allah Almighty.
Ama mühim olan karşı veren insan bunu bilmesi lazım ki halis Allah rızası için veriyoruz.
But again, if you do something good, if you give something, then you should do that or give that for this with a pure intention, with a sincere intention, solely dedicated for the sake of Allah Almighty.
Kur'an-ı Azimüşşan'da dediği gibi sizden hiçbir teşekkür beklemiyoruz.
And as it is stated in the Holy Quran, as the Holy Ones say in the Holy Quran, we have come to deliver a message without asking anything in return, not even a thank you.
Hiçbir menfaat beklemiyoruz.
We do not expect any profit in return, and we do not want to obtain any advantage through the message we deliver.
İşte ben buna yardım ettim, o bana yardım etmedi. Onu yedirdim, o hiç bana bir su bile vermedi.
People constantly complain. They say, for example, I helped that person, but that person did not help in return when I needed help. Or I gave that person to eat and to drink, and that person in return did not even give me a cup of water.
Çoğu insan böyle konuşur.
There are many people who say things like this and complain.
Eder. Onlar iyi bir şeyler değil.
But these are not good words. This is not a good way of looking at things.
Şeytanın mekideler, şeytan hileleridir ki
it is Shaitan's view of things, and it is the point of view of Shaitan. He wants to instill on you,
yaptığın sevabı kazanamasın diye.
And Shaitan makes you to complain in such a way so that you do not obtain the rewards and the blessings of the goodness you do.
Ya çok az bir sevaptan kazanasın diye.
Or even if he cannot fully deprive you of the blessings and the rewards, he tries to minimize your rewards to the maximum extent.
Çünkü o işe ihlastan çıkmış olur, menfaata dönmüş olur.
Because the moment you expect something in return, then the good deeds you have performed no longer are based on good intentions, on sincerity. The moment you expect something in return, your good intentions and your sincerity transform into benefit, into the drive to seek profit and make an advantage.
O da faydası çok az olur.
And then you will have reduced the blessings and the benefits of the goodness you've performed.
Allah muhafaza etsin nefsimizin şerrinden.
May Allah Almighty protect us from the evil of our egos.
Halis muhlis Allah rızası için yapalım ki
And may Allah Almighty enable us to do all the things we do with sincerity and pure and good intentions.
Biz de rahat ederiz.
For the sake of Allah Almighty, so that we may have peace of mind.
Bu adam iyi miydi, kötü müydü, ne diyecek, ne edecek diye onu düşünmezsin.
And if you do things only for the sake of Allah Almighty, then you don't worry about what others say. Then you don't worry about what the reaction of others will be, whether they will give you something in return. It doesn't matter any longer if you do things for the sake of Allah Almighty only.
Allah Azze ve Celle benden razı oldu mu onu düşünürsün.
If you do things for the sake of Allah Almighty only, then your only concern will be, is my Lord Allah Almighty pleased with me?
Bu işe kötü olsa bile ben hiçbir menfaat beklemeden Allah'ın rızası için yaptım.
And then all the things you do will be for the sake of Allah Almighty, and you will not be affected by what people's reactions may be. Whether they give thanks to you or not, or whether they return the goodness you performed with something bad, it doesn't matter any longer, because all you are concerned about is to please your Lord Allah Almighty only.
Allah kabul etsin diye düşünmen lazım, yapman lazım, niyetin öyle olması lazım.
When we do things, we must do things only to please our Lord Allah Almighty. That should be the intention behind our actions.
Allah hepimize bu güzelliği versin ki
May Allah Almighty grant us all that beauty of having that pure intention,
rahat edelim, başka türlü
so that we may have peace of mind,
karşılığında bir şey beklemek gibi olur.
and we should not do things in order to expect something in return.
Teşekkür istemek bile o karşılık demektir.
And we should not expect anything in return, not even a thank you. Even if you expect a thank you in return, that already is an expectation, and this will, we should do things not even for expecting a thank you, but again only for the sake of Allah Almighty.
Allah'tan istiyoruz, Allah'a teşekkür ediyoruz.
All we do is for the sake of Allah Almighty, and we don't want anything from anyone except from Allah Almighty, and we give all our thanks to our Lord Allah Almighty,
Allah'a şükrediyoruz inşallah.
who deserves all praises and thanks, and all thanks and praises belong to Him Almighty.
Ve min Allah tevfik. El Fatiha.